In the early 20th century, most Italian-American women were born into a life of hard work. From as early as 4 years old, they were expected to help around the house, work on the farm, and if necessary, even leave school to help support their families. The stories of women like this are captured in the new book, Farms, Factories, and Families, Italian-American Women of Connecticut. Joining me now is author Anthony Riccio. Nice to have you, Anthony.
Thank you.
We've had you here before. You've written about this a similar topic.
Yes, I have.
What drew you to this?
Well, working on other books about Italian Americans, I realized there was still yet a story to be told. And it was a story that I felt was needed, and that was the story of women who never really got a chance to really tell their story. It's, being an oral historian, I guess that's what we do, is we give, voice to the voiceless.
Sure.
And I mean, women definitely spoke.
They did.
But they never wrote their own histories because they grew up in a very patriarchal society, which, they lived under the dictates of men. Histories were mostly written by men, but this is an opportunity now for women to tell their own story, and they do. And it's in their own narratives, it's their own stories, their own experiences.
What were you hearing from them?
I was hearing that they quietly overcame such difficulties that it's almost hard to believe nowadays to realize what women went through. And I'm not so sure it wasn't just Italian Americans, it was probably a lot of women, lots of different ethnicities who went through the same kind of trial and tribulation, being expected to do so much.
Yeah, I have a hunch they did more work than the men did. I mean, because they also had the responsibility of taking care of families.
Well, that's an excellent hunch. It's true. It's true, and that's one of the threads that runs through this book, is that they were the glue that really held the whole culture together. They worked alongside of men. They cooked the meals.
Sure.
They nurtured the children. They saved the money. They managed the economy.
They kept everyone together, and they still do.
They kept everything together, and they quietly let the men think that they were running the show.
Those Italian women, huh?
Very, very wise.
Anthony, let me ask you, what did they want to tell you? What was the message they wanted to get across?
They wanted to tell me their story in a way that was very humble and very moving. The more you listen to them, the more compelled you were to listen to more, because the stories were very selfless. Mm-hmm. They were very dedicated, loyal people. They were dedicated to their communities. They were dedicated to their church. They were dedicated to their jobs. Mm-hmm. They were very dedicated to their families, and they were very dedicated to this country.
Sure.
All they wanted in return for this was not to be forgotten.
Right, and you were telling me before we went on air such an interesting story about a woman on her deathbed who just had to get information to you.
Lucia Falbo Fullen, God rest her soul, was a wonderful soul who I interviewed when she was 101, and she was of Sicilian origin. She grew up in Melilli and lived in Middletown, and we planned to meet again. And the story goes that we were going to talk again, and what we were going to talk about were these old Sicilian proverbs that she had, which came right from that rural tradition, these really ancient traditional proverbs, and that we were going to meet again. And I got a call from her daughter one night saying, my mother's really sick, she's refusing to eat, and she's told me my hour has come. With that, I sent an email saying, please tell your mother that she was one of the most fantastic, wonderful people I've ever met,
sure,
and that her words will never be forgotten. The next day, she's in and out of consciousness, fading in and out of consciousness, really literally on her deathbed. She says, get Anthony those proverbs, please. I've got to give you those proverbs. I promised Anthony the book, the proverbs. The daughter goes into the room that morning, writes down all the proverbs. She recites them verbatim. The daughter writes them in Sicilian. And she then relays them to me in email, tells her mother that, again, Anthony is telling you.
You had everything you needed.
I had that in Anthony's message is that you were one of the finest people he's ever met, one of the greatest storytellers, and your stories will never die. And she dies that afternoon.
So she just had to get them to you so she wouldn't be forgotten.
And that's how the book ends.
But there's touching stories like that. So much research went into this.
It did.
And
it's 9 years.
9 years of research, and you spoke to women from all over the state.
You
could find your hometown in there.
You can.
I did.
You did. It seems like everyone can find someone there. There's so much connectivity. Everyone knows someone somewhere in the state that's connected somehow to somebody in the book, which is why I've had so much, joy in knowing that I can go to all these talks now, and people are waiting. They're bringing their grandmother because she's in the book, and then I'll read their story, and it's very moving for the families. It's very moving.
And Anthony, where did you find the pictures that are in the book?
Well, it was interesting because a lot of the photographs come from family albums. Italian-American visual history is not in any library archives. It's in the family albums of our grandparents and our great aunts,
Sure.
and they need to be saved.
Very good. And we're looking at some pictures. These were ladies at work in a dress shop?
This was one of the sweatshops in New Haven on Vernon Street in the Hill. These were also the same women who through the female neighborhood network organized unions, and they overcame the male-dominated shirt factories and started the first unions in New Haven. But it was a women's movement.
Yeah,
I don't
give them
think
credit,
many
right?
people
Where
know
credit
that.
is due.
But yes, they were the genesis of the union movement. It started in New Haven and it spread through the state.
That's fascinating. The whole book is fascinating. Where can we find it, Anthony?
Well, right now I'm the only one who has it because I have the advanced copies. People can contact me. They can go to my website or they can call me. It's anthonyriccio.com. I have because I'm on the road doing so many talks. I'd be happy to sign them and
Send them out, right?
send them out. Yeah.
Very good.
They can contact me, sure.
Thank you so much for really
Wonderful.
doing the research. It's
Oh,
so fascinating.
It was my honor and privilege to meet these women.
Very good. Well, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Teresa.